I'm enjoying the Hawkeye series. I think they knew what they were doing when they picked Hawkeye to debut last. It's family oriented, but the dynamic between the two characters is really good. I like seeing this version of the vulnerable superhero. Yeah, I'm liking it. I like the story. I like the hijinks. It's a nice kind of low key.
So the TheoristCast, my name is Lucid,
And I am Pop Bot.
and we're here to bring back to come and talk about a few things that in this little break that we've had, including the Eternals, Shang-Chi, a little bit about Venom and the ending and how it has to do with the MCU, and a little bit of our feelings about the new Hawkeye series. I guess we could start off with the Hawkeye series. Papa, how do you feel about how that going, real
I,
quick?
I'm enjoying the Hawkeye series. I think they knew what they were doing when they picked Hawkeye to debut last. It's family oriented, but the dynamic between the two characters is really good. I like seeing this version of the vulnerable superhero. Yeah, I'm liking it. I like the story. I like the hijinks. It's a nice kind of low key comic book adventure, family adventure. So it's not
Sort of
too
feels
dark.
like a
Yeah,
buddy cop film, like a Marvel buddy cop film.
yeah, close to that. I think they think of buddy movies. It's not forced, like I think Venom was. But yeah, I like it. I enjoy watching it.
Yeah, I do. I say the same. I think Haley is Steinfeld. Yeah, Haley Steinfeld, because I keep mixing her with like Haley Atwell. But Haley Steinfeld is doing really well as Kate Bishop. I I know this is off topic, but I loved her performance in Arcane. So just seeing her, be this really tough animated kind of kind of like slum lord, kind of slum on the ground bruiser, to this kind of young girl just kind of tripping her way through the superhero world, tripping her way into the superhero world, really shows the range she has. Especially considering one was voice acting, and that's not always the easiest for an actor to do.
Yeah, I agree. Haley Seinfeld's character playing Kate Bishop, she's doing a great job, and yeah, I like everything about her. I'm not really that familiar with Kate Bishop from the comic. I've read a couple of Hawkeyes where she's the main character, but the ones I've read, she's young and a bit goofy, and trying to figure out how this superheroing thing works. And I like that she is true so far. The character that Haley Steinfeld is playing is very similar to the comic book character. It's good. It's good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, no, I do agree. I mean, but I just said that. Speaking of which, like Venom, I know you're not you haven't been a fan of the Venom series at all, and it even seems even less after the second Venom came out. So,
Yeah, the see the thing is that I'm a fan of Venom, and to see him so poorly depicted in the Sony franchise, it drives me bonkers. It's so formulaic, so poorly done, and how do you mess up so bad when there's so much material to work with? The last movie was a little over 90 minutes, and it's like, what kind of Venom versus Carnage movie are you gonna put together in 90 minutes? It's like the characters were so plastic, the lines were ridiculous, and again, formulaic, and all these stupid catchphrases, let there be carnage, and oh my it's like, dude, who were they targeting? And you don't need to create an audience for Venom, right? There's a solid audience for Venom, and it, this movie was better than one, but that's not saying much, right? In my opinion.
They fixed it a little bit, but are like, okay, and
it's not even fixed it. It's almost, they almost couldn't have made a worse movie. Not the second time up to bat, right? I mean, Fantastic Four did, so. But
I mean, they don't say that because they're like, hey, we'll prove you wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll throw away Michael B. Jordan.
Yeah.
We'll take such a great accent and we'll just throw him in the trash. How about that?
Yeah.
So watch us.
I'm very disappointed in Venom. The Let There Be Carnage story was ridiculous. It's like a story for 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
Like give me a real story, something with some depth to it, something with you know. I mean,
hey, I've told you my opinion on how Carnage should have been a horror movie, right? Should have been a straight horror movie told by the protagonist, told by someone who was just a human trying not to get killed by Carnage.
Yeah.
Right? I think that would be the best introduction to show what kind of a scary, unrelenting force of nature, of pure chaotic nature Carnage was, right? In the fact that you aren't coming at this from Venom, unstoppable, or big old Venom, oh, he'll survive. You're coming at it like, this person might die at any moment.
Yeah, right? I got what you're saying. And
I think like Alien style, right? Just you never always see him, but he's creeping everywhere.
Yes, Sony's biggest mistake with Venom is that they're trying to make a PG-13 movie out of like one of the most brutal characters in Marvel.
I mean, it was made by Todd McFarlane.
Yeah.
Like, this is Spawn. This is the guy that made Spawn.
Exactly. If there's any, hero character that didn't need to be PG-13, it's Venom. And then in the second outing, you're pitting one of the most brutal characters in Marvel against his more savage and brutal nemesis, and you're trying to make a PG-13 movie for a bunch of kids, and it's just a failure. It's just I'm really trying to think of anything I liked about it. I only watched it because it's a Venom movie, and I kind of have to watch it by default. But just hope and pray that you get something out of it.
No, I absolutely agree. I would say that one of the biggest issues was the fact that like you put Carnage in a movie where it's like the whole idea was Carnage. The whole idea of Maximum Carnage was the fact that Carnage was too much for Peter or Venom to take on alone. That's how ruthless and powerful he was. Was that they had to outsmart him with their powers combined, just to be like, just to hold, like, what, lock him away. They couldn't kill him. The guy is way too strong. Like that was kind of the whole point of his introduction. So I'm just kind of surprised that like that it's kind of just you can forgive things like Fantastic Four. You can, I mean, maybe not the last one, like, but it's like you can. There's so many things you could forgive. Spider-Man 3. Right, you can forgive the first Hulk movie. There's so many things you can forgive because there was no template. There was no like, you can understand like producers making decisions like, but we need to do this to grab into regular people. Mm-hmm. But when you have like Fox learned its lesson. Fox learned its lesson for you, right? They're like, hey, let's take a Deadpool and let's put him in an X-Men PG-13 movie and fuck them all up. Yeah, right?
Exactly.
Sword of Arm, let's turn him into Baraka, but with like no mouth. And it was like, and they were
Oh my
like,
gosh, yeah.
no, never mind.
Everybody beat them up, which
Hell,
they deserve.
they beat themselves up, right? In Deadpool, right? They're like, Ryan Reynolds beat himself up for every superhero mistake he made,
Yeah.
right? And studio allowed them to make, right? So the fact is that, like, they understood, like, Fox already did a comedic R-rated movie and a dramatic R-rated movie, both about superheroes, that kids really shouldn't love, but they do because they're just cool. And they're like, but what about the children though? It's just like, what?
Yeah.
Like, how? Like even Disney learned. Like, they're like, we're not gonna make Deadpool R-rated. We might not make it as bad, but PG-13 rated. We'll keep it R-rated, right? Like, of course they're gonna Disney-fy it a little bit, but even they realize that, like, we can't just strip it of. There's R rating is the reason it is.
Yeah, I really think. Anyways, I mean, we could spend all day beating it up. I think enough said. We just hope that they improve, and we hope that when they do throw him into a Spider-Man movie,
in terms of TheoristCast and the fact that not to cut you off, but the fact that he's in the new. I don't know. I guess that is theory. Do you think he's going to be in the new Spider-Man movie?
Well,
because of that end scene?
Of course. That's exactly what's happening. See, this is what I'm saying about, poor writing. There's no illusions about where he ended up. They showed Peter Parker on the screen. They showed Venom licking the screen and saying, that guy. It's like, come on. And they show them being teleported to another universe. It's like, it's like, here it is, kids. It's the kind of story you write for 10 or 11 or 12-year-olds because everything needs to be spoon-fed to them.
It's almost as bad as an anime. Watching an anime.
Well, some anime, right? Because there's some really well done anime.
Watching My Hero, and then Deku's sitting there explaining. I'm like, we saw.
Yeah.
I saw that. We were all very clear about what happened.
Mm-hmm. So.
But thank you for clearing it up again, Deku, for the third time.
But yeah. So, of course he's gonna be in there. Just I hope that they're handled better in Marvel for whatever brief time they get on the screen than they were handled by Sony. So
I mean, like I said, they've had the blueprint from the beginning. It seems Fox, in their last ditch effort, like, it seems that's where you have to be. Like, you got to be failing to then get creative. But like we saw it with Blade, right? Like, Blade, first really like good superhero movie, and it was R-rated.
Yep.
He was another one where you can't make a movie about a vampire killer PG-13.
Exactly.
But that does make me wonder: is the new Blade movie going to be with Mahershala Ali gonna be PG-13? Right? Is it gonna be like no blood or very little blood? And I'm like, it's a vampire movie. I want my blood rave, my gratuitous blood rave scene. Do you remember that scene? Like, the very first scene he's like, he just starts with a blood rave.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's like a fucking awesome scene because it was a cool fight scene, but just like,
yeah, and they're ripping people apart. Let's see if they hold to it, right? If they make the other Blades rated R. Blade needs to be rated R.
I mean, I think it would actually, I think it's their best. It would be their smartest move. I'm sure it'll be like a head to head with Disney in terms of, their ethos, but it's just like a no brainer, right? Because we were talking off air about how at the end of Eternals, the Black Knight, it seems as from from what I read about it being the director confirming that the voice that spoke to Kit Harington's character was Blade. He was just the guy off screen. You sure you want to do that? Are you ready for that or something like that? And it makes me feel like, well, why does it seem like Blade is filling the Nick Fury role of collecting? Right, I'm at the end of the game. Hey, have you heard of the Avengers Initiative kind of stuff?
Yeah,
and that makes me feel like that they might be building like a Midnight Suns, especially since a game has recently been released or being announced called the Midnight Suns, and Blade is one of them. In my research, Black Knight was never part of them, but I can't, it's like, it's MCU. Like, they'll do what they need to do to make it work.
I'm trying not to speculate too much on it. I just hope that whatever they do it well. Marvel has consistently made good movies, though, so I'm kind of not very worried. Even if they do decide to make him PG-13, I think they'll do a good job of it. But I believe that that Blade should be rated R. What's Morbius rated? Do you know?
I think it's PG-13. I don't know. Cause they just did like a sneak preview. I watched it on YouTube, and again, it looked like he was doing some stuff. And I'm like, it's really dark. Did he just slice that guy's neck? There's surprisingly little to no blood I see. He's dying. He's clearly dying, but I don't see any blood.
So yeah, it is rated PG-13. So they made Morbius PG-13. If they're doing Michael Morbius PG-13, then Blade is going to be PG-13.
No, that's Sony. That is Sony doing that. That is not.
I thought but Morbius is part of the Midnight Suns, right?
I think he's been part of it, but again, that's the Venomverse, which is that's what I'm calling it. I'm calling it the Venomverse because they don't technically have Tom in it, so in Spider. So right now it's the Venomverse, and that's all their people and their properties. Like I guess Birdman's got roped into that. Morbius, Venom, Carnage, Siren, is that her name? I can't remember her name. Screech, I can't remember her name.
Screech, yeah.
The girl. So you say, that's Sony property. So the same way. So again, like as we said earlier, I believe that Disney at least saw and listened and heard the fans cry, because when they bought Fox, they were like, oh my God, no, they're going to ruin Deadpool by making him PG-13. And I'm pretty sure Kevin Feige, if I can remember correctly, said somewhere that no, the Deadpool will be rated R. I can't say it's going to be as R rated as Fox's version when they're kind of like on their last leg, just being like make whatever. But they did say R rating, so I can imagine that they're still it'll be toned down, but not like how they're doing with Venom, right? Mm-hmm. Where it's almost a joke of what he is, right? They wouldn't risk that bag. They wouldn't risk that bag.
Like even the end scene where he. And how do you kill Cletus? It's like, how do you kill Carnage? It's like, come on, man.
But that's what I'm saying, right? Like, how does Venom do that? I guess spoiler alert if you haven't seen it.
It's like it shouldn't be a spoiler. It's like the movie's been out for several months now, so. Anyone listening to this should have seen it, and if they haven't, they didn't see it because they didn't want to.
Exactly. You didn't miss anything.
Well, if you go and watch it, just stay home and get drunk while you do it. So don't.
But yeah, so Venom can't kill Carnage by himself. He just can't. He needs Spider-Man.
Yeah.
That was even shown in when one of the recent series, when in Carnage series, where he's like kind of takes over the city. Eddie Brock has to go to Spider-Man again. Right, he runs into Carnage and just barely gets away. Right, then Carnage almost kills him, and he ends up running to Spider-Man for help. So, like Spider-Man and Miles Morales for help. So,
yeah, we got to start doing a better job of referencing the storylines and issues. We'll do that for you guys soon. In the future,
get an editor to put those little bleeps Spider-Man issue, like the kind of things that have in comics.
Yeah, Lucid promises to do that in the future.
Yeah.
I just promised to,
Don't make promises for me.
make more work for him.
I'll reprogram you. So you want to talk about more work for me?
So how about let's talk about something we enjoyed, like the Eternals.
Yes, the Eternals. I did enjoy the Eternals. Surprising, apparently a lot of people didn't. But
Yeah.
what do they know?
What's wrong with humanity? It's like, come on. What was there not to enjoy about the Eternals? You know?
I will say in their defense, and even though I'm not really defending them, I could see there was a lot of dialogue, not as much action.
Because they're telling a story. If they want
Yeah.
to see
Oh yeah. No. Absolutely.
useless,
Absolutely.
useless action, just go watch Venom.
I mean,
Something with no story and just people flailing around on the screen. Go see. There's 1,000 movies like that. Go see the latest Resident Evil. But they're actually trying to tell a story and set up future stories here. So it's like, anyways, go ahead.
no, but I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the characters that they introduced. I enjoyed all the Eternals. I am disappointed that the Asian guy was the one that was killed. But then again, there's almost nobody, maybe outside of like Spirit, that or Sprite, outside of like maybe Sprite. I don't see anyone else that would, and maybe Druid. Is it Druid or Druig?
Druig, 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 yeah. And
That I would
Gilgamesh
have.
was
Yeah,
killed.
Gilgamesh was the one that killed. Yeah, I would have
Yeah.
preferred one of those two killed over Gilgamesh.
Well, so the good thing about being in comic book movies is there's a million ways to be reincarnated, and I can see Gilgamesh coming back. But they got to do something to make you feel something about the characters. I mean, if you're writing they have to show that there is actual peril, right, in what they do.
Yeah, well, I mean, and I feel like they started doing that with Stark, right? Where it's like, right? Certain people, you mention Stark and they just start tearing up and they're like, oh, because they're just like, because you felt like you lost like an uncle, right? Like he's gone. We really don't know if they're ever gonna bring some of us that know would be like, yes, there are ways from the comic they could bring him back, but the way they did it, you kind of feel like, you know what? I think it's permanent. I don't think they're bringing him back. I think they Uncle Ben this guy.
Yeah.
Oh, guys.
I mean, I think both of them are gone. But if he shows to be, if he ends up becoming a fan favorite, and many characters have died, and fans have brought them back to life just because they've been fan favorites. I mean, these companies are in this to make money, right? And if they decide that they want Gilgamesh back, they'll bring him back. So that's what I think. But I think it's part of the story. These guys were sent here to prepare the world, and there's dangers in that because of the way the story's laid out, and they have to represent that somehow. So if you had to pick a favorite Eternal, who would it be?
And I hate that I can't remember her name. It's the deaf girl, this fast girl. I hate that
Makari.
Makari.
Yeah. Played by Lauren.
Makari's a favorite.
Ridloff.
She's a favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. I think Makari was cool. I would say that Makari is my. Yeah. I guess
because it's like Makari, and then it's like I can't remember. Is it Thaddeus or whatever? The inventor. I can't remember his name because he also had like a longer.
Fastos,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Makari and Fastos were my favorite, right?
Yeah, I liked all of them. My favorite would be Thena, played by Angelina Jolie, and the reason
she was great.
She's my favorite is that I enjoyed watching her struggle. Often there's these superheroes, and
it was a representation of PTSD.
Yeah, well, exactly.
At least that's what I saw.
It's exactly that, but she had a real struggle, and she could fix herself, but the price of fixing herself was to lose herself. And I love that she had this vulnerability, but the vulnerability was so bad that it not only endangered her, it endangered everyone that she loved, but they all chose to leave her be, and to in some cases, in Gilgamesh's case, sacrifice himself. So I and I liked, of course, Angelina Jolie's a great actress, but the way that she played that character, with those vulnerabilities and with that awesome power, it was great, you know.
I I mean, if you like know anything about her, you know that she suffers from mental health issues, right? And it was not just like, I think, yes, I guess on the surface, it was PTSD, but yeah, but the whole, as you said, like their story as a family and dealing with that very much speaks to the story of families dealing with people with mental health, right? Where it's all like, well, the simple solution is to just Baker act them, lock them away, and let them get pumped full of drugs, which is lots of times the easier ish, the more hands off, just like get it done method, which some would say causes people in there to lose themselves, right? So them choosing to be like, no, we're gonna handle it, right? We're gonna be the support system, even at the detriment of our own health, is something that I think many people can relate to, but I also think it's something that goes over the heads of people who've never had to experience that, right?
Yeah.
Either the mental health part or the having to support someone with mental health. That's right. So in some cases, and even in the real world, that mental health problem is dangerous,
Yeah,
to them and those around them.
yeah. I agree. Yeah, throwing those. See, this is a story that you can discuss, and throwing in the family element of the Eternals, I enjoyed that. I mean, I think it's one of the things that people really loved about Black Widow, but also about the Avengers, that they came together and they became a family, and it's something that folks related to. This relationship. It's why people are still going to see Fast and the Furious 9 movies in. So,
well, I mean,
it's
it's because it's a bunch of superheroes throwing cars at each other, and their bodies like. I think that might be more of it.
You talking about Fast and Furious or Eternal?
Yeah, Fast and Furious. Superheroes throwing cars at each other. Yeah, no, that's what they are.
Yeah, they become superheroes. They were normal cats, and yeah, now they're far more than, it's like
launching out of tanks,
breaking off.
Here, I'm just gonna
breaking cast off by the flexation of their arms, and and you're right, like landing planes on top of tanks, and
put me in the barrel, then shoot me at Lydia. I'll catch her.
But anyways, we're not supposed to be talking about that stuff. It's a good franchise. They're making their money, and
I mean, I'm not hating. They're making more money every time. I can't hate that. But in terms of Eternals, I absolutely agree. I think one of the things they did really well is, like you said, like the family element. But the fact is that the family element, it was a broken family. Right? It was not just a broken family, but they were dealing. It was just a family story. It was a story about a broken family dealing with lies and trauma that tore them apart, right? And then and those that can heal from it coming back, while some of them can never come back from the pain that's caused, right? From like Mama, what was her name? It's not Athena. It's
talking about Selma Hayek's character, Ajax.
Ajax. It's
Ajax.
Like all these Ajax. Yeah, all these names. Yeah, but Ajax character. Her death, right? Her lot. Like it's sort of like it's sort of the story of like, the mother or the grandmother dies, right? And then like you start going through their old belongings. You're like, what is this life? Like, is anything we knew about her true? Right? And then the kind of the fallout that has on everyone, and then also dealing with their I guess, last will and testament, or their last affairs, right? Thus being the Sentinel. Yeah. I think they did a lot of elements with it really well, but it's definitely going to be one of those movies that is going to be a cult classic that over time, as people, when it gets on Disney Plus and people can really sit down and absorb it outside of, right, the 2.5 hour sitting period of everything just happening, and where it's happening, when you can really just sit there and absorb what's happening, I think the consensus of it will change, purely based on just on it being a decent, well-told story alone. It's one of the few Marvel stories that was almost all shot on set.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they went, or like not on location. So like they went. So they went to all locations, right? All those that's why it looked like that, because when they're like in that little sandy desert, they're handing like all they're in like a deserty field somewhere.
I gotcha. Yeah, man. It was a well done movie. It was a beautiful movie, and it's again, I don't understand the hate that people have for it, and again, it's a setup for the new universe, right? It's like the movies, Marvel does a great job of building. So it was a great movie, but I think again the storyline needs to build. You can't start at the top, you know?
Yeah.
So
I will say my only gripe, as we discussed off air, is that there was no like X-Men illusion, right? Considering, well, just I mean, just off the fact that if you look at the origins of the Eternals, every time, like, look at any video, right? Even if you're not look at any video of people talking about who are the Eternals, they always go back to the issue of where they started: the Eternals, the Deviants, and the humans. The humans who will eventually become mutants. Right? Like there is a clear, like there is a very distinct and very open, like they're like, this is where mutants come from. They came from the original creation of Sentinel Eternals, and some of these humans will have extraordinary abilities over time. So the fact is that opportunity wasn't really taken seems like a huge missed opportunity for just, I feel like it would have changed, even for the people that didn't like it, it would have changed their opinion of it. Like, well, at least this confirms that X-Men are coming, or that mutants are here. Mutants exist. Yeah, right? They would have had that.
I think if you're paying attention to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that they're not playing their cards so early. We just started the next round, and I think they're doing what they need to do. Again, let's take Venom. Let's just compare, the debut of characters in MCU to the debut of characters in, Sony's world, right? So just Venom, for instance. How do they write Cletus getting his powers? He bites Venom. Like, are you kidding me? This is it?
Yeah, that's...
It's like, that's the best you can come up with, right? And they didn't even explain Screech, and it's like,
who is also a mutant? I'm pretty sure
is also a mutant, but give us a little more. Give us something of a story, Whereas any character that ends up with powers, Marvel spends time in that movie. So if you spend 10 minutes, right, on a character in a 2-hour movie, you've devoted like a significant part of that story to that character. And Marvel takes the time to give you a story that is wound into that universe, that's believable, not just like, this is happening because we need it to happen right now. This is like, it's like, how do we create carnage? Have him bite him. It's like, really?
There's a dog chewing on like a bone in a corner, like that.
Someone paid you to come up with that idea, unobtainium. It's like, are you
too much money?
Me?
Someone paid you too much money for that.
God. Anyways, I know I'm criticizing. I'm not a writer, but it's like, come on. You don't even have to work that hard to do it. Like, just read the comic book and, weave that into your. Just read 15 different origin stories. Read the real origin story of Carnage, and just come on, man. You don't have to come up with something new. And then, if you're gonna come up with something new, don't make it so lame that it's Eddie Brock being bitten by Cletus, and it's like, I've tasted blood before, and that ain't no normal blood. It's like, are you goddamn kidding me? It's like, what is this? What's happening here? Anyways, we're back on this topic, and let's get off of it. Let's go back to
honestly. I'm like, you're sitting here ranting, and I'm all like, I would have preferred if he like maybe shanked him. Like, he shanked him, and then he licks the shank. He's like,
something, and it should have been spawned from something that is because of Venom being an alien symbiote, not because he's in Eddie Brock's blood, and if anyone bites him, they're gonna like, and I need to kill my father. Like,
because it wasn't even, because that's not happening. Venom broke Eddie out of jail, and he's like, whoops, forgot a little bit of me.
Yeah. So anyways, back to what you're saying. I think that they did not miss an opportunity. I think what is going on is Marvel wants to write stories that folks will speak about and in a way that resonates with them. So they're not just going to be like, they're not going to make it so obvious, and definitely not in the debut of the Eternals. Right now, we don't need to talk about the mutants because this movie is introducing you to the Eternals and the Sentinels, right? There's already, it's like they're not going to do a Spider-Man 3 where
Celestials.
I'm sorry, Celestials, right? We're not.
That's Sentinels and mutants.
Exactly.
They're mutant hunters.
So we're introducing you to the Eternals and the Celestials. We're not going to do a Spider-Man 3 and throw Sandman and Venom and the new Goblin, whatever the hell the new Goblin is, at you all in one movie and be like, it's going to be a great movie. There's going to be more, and you know, there's going to be more villains than we know what to do with. It's like, it's so much that you can't even tell a story. So,
I agree. I agree. But again, I wasn't necessarily referring to the whole fact that we knew the whole like subplot about the mutants are coming, right? Mm-hmm. Just more of like the fact that like there is an effect, right? We've had fingers snapped, right? We've had people disappear, come back, snap again, right? We've had so much energy radiating through the universe that it's like nobody's like, some kid grew angel wings. Wait, what? Right, like that's all I need. This is all I need is like just the end scene is like, you hear about the kid grew angel wings? Wait, what? And then move on, right? Like credits, like one of those mids, like just like, and because then people are like, what kid with angel wings? But every super Marvel nerd is gonna be like, angel. Oh, that means you're right. You don't even need a whole thing. There we go, done. But like right now we got like Star Fox and what, Pippin? I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm just like, cool. I'm like, and when I did more research, I'm like, cool. Yeah, I guess that that's Eros, right? That's Thanos' brother. I was like, cool. But like, I thought we were done with Thanos. Right? It's one of those things where it's like, I don't know what I need to be excited for. And to me, as a super like kind of like Marvel, I wouldn't say I'm like the most Marvel nerd like of them all, right? But it's like, I know my shit, right? And I'm all like, cool. Where are we going with this, right? And to me, that wasn't a great sign. Like even I felt that way with the final scene with Kit Harington like hesitant about the black ebony sword, or the ebony blade, and I was like, at first because I didn't know much, but then when I did a little bit more research about what the ebony blade actually is, mm-hmm. I was like, oh, we're going symbiote god. That's who's gonna be our Thanos this time. It's symbiote god Null, right? Because we're already doing Gore the God Killer and the Necro Sword and Thor Love and Thunder. Venom has now been pulled into the MCU, and that black Necro Sword, that little goo. What else moves like that? Symbiotes. And in the comics, the ebony blade comes from, like, it basically has like part of it's basically a symbiote blade. There's symbiote on the blade, um, and it kind of corrupts the wearer, so, or the user. So there's like, for me, when you see that, I'm like, okay, we're clearly setting up null symbiote god over time. That is exciting. All right, possibly Midnight Suns, right? I would like that. That's a good place to have like R-rated Marvel movies, right? They might not be like super duper necessary in terms of like the overarching stories, because otherwise you can't expect parents to want to have their kids also watch these R-rated movies. But I think they will definitely fill a like the same way how like Marvel Black, right? They kept trying to do things like Marvel Black in the comics.
Yeah.
Kind of fill out these.
It was Marvel Knights, right?
I think it was like the super R-rated, like the one that had like the Punisher, where they just let the Punisher be as Punisher-y as possible.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. The Marvel Knights. Yeah. But it was basically like a super adult, no holds bar, like take on Marvel characters who really should have that take. Right, and while I don't believe they're gonna go as far as a Marvel Knights on the screen, they do have a place. I do feel like they do have an opportunity to have a little place of like, here's our R-rated superhero people, right? Our darker toned people. They add stuff to the story, but you don't need to make your kids watch them.
Mm-hmm. So, who do you think Shang-Chi is bringing into the Marvel universe? Who are they setting up?
I heard somewhere, I don't even want to talk about it, like, I heard somewhere that it was like a theory. By the time he got to the end, I was like, really? It was supposed to, he thinks it's like Galactus, and I'm like, I don't know. Because he's like, the rings belong to Galactus. They can belong to, I was like, why would they do that? That doesn't make any sense. You know what makes sense? Put it on the dragon dude that the rings belong to. They're giant rings that are just big enough to fit on a human's wrist. But it's kind of like, might be big enough as a human's wrist. A dragon claw. A giant alien dragon claw. That sounds cool.
I think that'd be
We already got dragon. Give me alien dragon. Let's do something about his name, though, because I don't think they can do Fing Fang Foom.
Yeah, that end scene where they're talking about the age of the rings and where the origin is. That's really interesting. I haven't figured that out, but I also haven't tried to figure it out. But I need to work on that, especially for this podcast.
Yeah, I mean, to me, like I said, to me, it just kind of when they talk about the age, nothing out in space, nothing I've seen before, or I think I've come across before, like that Fing Fang Foom kind of fits that, like, that split, right? He's super ancient-y, right? He's basically, they can even fit it in, like, he's what dragons are based off of, the dragon lores are based off of, right? Mm-hmm. This giant alien dragon that's kind of been in secret hiding, and long ago, because Shang-Chi's dad came across him long ago, right? Also be a great way to bring back, God, what is his name? Tony something. The Asian guy that played the Mandarin, right? Great actor, great Asian actor. Great way to bring him back, at least for like a flashback of him interacting the same way his son interacted with the dragon in the temple, or in that village. He interacted with a dragon and to get the rings, or beat the hell out. I don't know. Why? How did he get these rings? See, I can't imagine like the rings, because the guy who said the theory being Galactus. I'm like, I don't see why they would be Galactus's rings. That doesn't make sense.
I gotcha.
He made some good points about how Galactus can be fit into the universe, but I was like trying to connect the Shang-Chi rings on that scene to him calling out Galactus to come to the planet. I'm like, nah, because like Galactus is too big of like a person to bring in when they haven't even introduced like the Fantastic Four yet, or the X-Men. or right, or even the start, right? Galactus is everybody hands on deck kind of person.
What do you
and even
think
then, like,
about the appearance of the Abomination in Shang-Chi? I think they're setting him up to be in future Phase 4
Hulk movies.
movies or the television shows. I think we're going to see him again in She-Hulk. And
Yeah.
I was really surprised that they brought him back. It almost didn't click that here they brought the Abomination back, who was, a major character, the major villain, in the last Hulk movie, right? So
Which is technically a Marvel property.
Yeah.
They didn't buy that. That was that was a Marvel Studios film.
Mm-hmm.
They just had a falling out with the actors, so they just they were like, they swept it under the rug before anyone noticed. I mean, how I feel about it, my only real feelings about it is I hope it means that maybe we could do a multiverse Hulk where Edward Norton comes back, right? Maybe Edward feels better, right? He's like, yeah, maybe I'll give another chance. How big they are. They're like, hey man, it was under new management. We got our shit together now.
What's wrong with Marky G? Why can't he remain the Hulk?
I mean, it's not about him remaining the Hulk. It's about, like, they can be different Hulks.
Oh, I got you.
Because I still feel like they were also, they played Bruce Banner very differently, and I still really like the way that Edward Norton's, how he played Bruce Banner. And as I did my read, it sounds like he was the only reason why that movie was any good at all, because he was like, this is ridiculous. What are you making me do? Because it was still I think it was still like a Universal's Marvel thing, right? They were still like working things out, so and that's why they kind of got rid of him, because he was really uppity about stuff. But it also seems like a lot of the really good parts of it came from Edward Norton also really wanting to understand and display the tragicness of the character.
Bruce Banner. Yeah, I think
Right?
that has been something that has almost been ignored in the MCU. How tragic Banner's situation is. But
Especially now that he's smart Hulk, so he's just like, I'm good now. I'm I'm smart and I'm strong.
yeah, they just jumped over it, right?
Right? He's like done. So I think Edward Norton would be a great example to bring back, like, especially if he comes around and he's like, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
What did you do? Right? And then but not even that, not only him, but his character and his Hulk don't respect smart Hulk.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing a World War Hulk.
And I think he would.
I think he well.
Oh yeah, and I think he would be a great. Like, I don't think he's a. Mark is a great. He's great. The Bruce Banner is fun, but I don't think he would play a good World War Hulk.
Yeah.
Because World War Hulk he wasn't just angry. He was broken. He was a heartbroken man.
Yeah, and he's a genius.
Right.
And now he's a genius with infinite power. So. Like infinite strength. So it's like
infinite. He's all like he gets angry. He's like, oh, the guy who gets stronger when he gets angrier. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we killed his wife and possible baby.
Exactly.
Oh, that's not good. That's not good at all. Right? You're just like, just off that premise alone, you're like, yeah, no, that's goodbye. Like, I just always love, like, the little bit, and I'll say it over and over until they put it on the screen, when he came to the X mansion, and then they came after him to kind of stop him from going after Professor X, and the Hulk smacks Darwin, and Darwin's power is evolution, right? Evolve as fast as you can to survive. The nigga teleports. Mm-hmm. He just leaves the situation. His body was like, nope.
Yeah, we can't win here.
He's like, not even win. We can't survive this. His body immediately felt the Hulk's touch, and like, go. This was a mistake, and it just left the situation, right? And I was all like, man, this mother is like, this guy's like, and I felt like it was the funniest examples of how strong the Hulk is. where literally someone who's near unkillable was like, you know what, the best option is to not engage at all. Just no. Just let that professor have him.
Exactly.
Just let him have the professor.
So what do you think is in store for your boy Miles?
Miles? Oh, I don't know. Especially because they're keeping Tom. Like, I mean, I would... It's so weird. Because, again, Tom is such, like, a baby. And it's so weird, like... It's like, how do you bring in Miles Morales without them looking like they're the same age? Because even though, I think, like, Tom Holland's, like, 20-something, he looks like he's 16. So how do you even reasonably bring in, like, a 15-year-old, right, to even play a Miles Morales that still doesn't look as old as Tom, right?
You know what would be crazy if they just said, we're going to keep Miles Morales animated. And they brought in Miles Morales, animated Miles Morales into No Way Home.
That would be insane. I would love it. That was like, that's like cool. Toon, what is that? That Toon World or whatever? Yeah, that's so Toon. Oh god, I know it's not the name, but it's like that. I know, God, that would be crazy. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? God, amazing.
Rabbit, yeah, exactly.
That would be so cool. That would be such a. Well, I mean, they couldn't. Can they? Because No Way Home comes out like in 2 weeks. I don't even have tickets yet. You gotta figure out a time to go. So that we don't get too spoiled.
Well, I'm not going out on the first night.
Oh yeah, I'm thinking like the week after, opening, like couple, like I'm just gonna stay off the internet for the weekend.
Yeah.
And then just jump in on Tuesday, but or something like that. But I'm just thinking. Like, it's gonna come out, so and we only, I don't know if you saw the trailer, but we just now saw the trailer for Across the Spider-Verse. So it's like, I mean, maybe that's it. Oh shit, maybe you stumbled into something, because they did just so happen to release it right before No Way Home comes out. Which, if you watched it,
I'm not sure they do that, but I think that would be.
Well, yeah, cool but it's a weird coincidence where it's like, and they released it just so now, if you didn't know, now you know, Miles is bouncing around the multiverse. Right? So it's not so crazy where if like we saw him like, because now, as you said, like we pretty much believe that Venom's gonna show up in No Way Home, because he's already been, the end of Venom shows that he's in the same universe at least. So I'm sure he's gonna have some sort of cameos. Hey Peter, right, or some shit. It doesn't seem far fetched to think that maybe we might not see, at least see like like during like the hair tear scene, like I can't stop him from coming. Whatever scene that like Doctor Strange was talking about trying to hold him back, I can't stop them. Maybe, and it looks like they're seeing like rips and tears in the sky. It might not be far-fetched that we see like a little Miles, going from like one tear to another, right? He doesn't mean he's not really in the movie, but like he at least is all like they just so happen like all this craziness is all happening at the same time. And it's like Miles and like Miguel and Spider-Man 2099 are like flying through that portal, right? And they go in and out, and you're like, what the hell was, like, if it's a blink and you missed it, like, whoa, Miles Morales was there. But it's also because they released the trailer, it's like, oh, okay, you're not sitting there thinking, why would Miles be coming through, like, what, you're like, oh, right, no, at the end of, like, we see that, when we go to Across the Spider-Verse, he's gonna be bouncing around Spider-Verses, right? We might, which then gives an opportunity for us to see like Spider-Man No Way Home from a different angle, right? Where it's like it's going through like cartoon, live action. What the fuck is that? Is that the scene from No Way Home? All right, got cartoon, right? At least man. If I had control, that's what I would have done. Or I thought of it, because I'm not gonna pretend like I thought of it. That's really awesome, right? Or at least I came up with the initial spark.
How did you come up with the
Well,
initial
well, well,
spark?
I'm saying
What are
I
you
didn't.
talking
I didn't
about?
come up with the initial spark. I'm saying like I came up with the idea of like how they could bounce up. But the fact is that you said him being in No Way Home animated. I'm like, how would they do that? I was like, oh, he could just do like a quick cameo. You know, right?
Yeah.
Because and that's why I came up because I was like, it's just kind of coincidental where it's like, why not show that as a trailer for Spider-Man? You know, at the beginning of Spider-Man No Way Home, right? Like, why not save that for like, whoa, my God, the Spider-Man No Way Home and a Spider-Man across, whoa, like, but to put it before that, and for enough time for everyone who would see Spider-Man No Way Home to also see the trailer, like, you know, to have seen the trailer by then, that gives them that gives enough time to speculation. So it's sitting in your brain. You're like I said, you see a little animated Miles flying across the universe, or like flying across in the background, and then disappear, and you're like, wait, is that Miles? Why was Miles? Oh shit. Okay, so it's like across the universe and No Way Home are happening at the same time. What is causing all this shit? Right? Because that's what it also seems like. It seems like they're really like they're even taking a they're merging Venomverse and MCU, right? Venomverse is just another is just a Earth Venomverse, as you know, while it's like Earth 616 and Earth M1, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if they had worked out a deal that Across the Spider-Verse universe is also somehow connected to MCU's Spider-Man's world, right? That's our universe, the main MCU universe. It's just
Well, yeah, I think they're. I mean, I think they've already worked that out. That you know, all the universes. This is what they were setting up in
the end of Venom.
in Endgame and in Loki. You know that all of these universes are connected.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, they're
They
branching
need
it.
good complex story.
Yeah, because they keep they keep reeling in the trailer. And we'll wrap this up soon. That it was you know, he's like, when you botch that spell and you know rip with some people speculate that it wasn't actually Doc, it was like Sylvie killing Immortus. That, and just so happened that all of these big events are happening, which would be really interesting, right? That they've been setting up all these movies that they're all happening almost simultaneously, right? Which is very comic booky, right? Where we have like Civil War, or and there's a million, you know, Heroes for Hire, such like that, right? There's a million different issues that play into it that isn't just the main Civil War line. And I feel like that might be what they like, at least what the end of what they're trying to illustrate with the end of Venom, is that that little like him getting shifted into the universe is showing that either it's Sylvie, it's Peter, somebody, the multiverse is now being merged.
Yeah, they might do something like a New 52 event where some multiverses disappear and some characters merge.
Yeah. I mean, it's what they did with.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, it's what they did with the Ultimate Universe in terms of bringing Miles Morales in. They killed the Ultimate Universe, but kept Miles, and also brought in Old Man Logan. So you know, they kept in a few more people from that universe. Yeah, Miles is from the Ultimate. Yeah, Miles is from the Ultimate Universe.
You mean in a comic book?
So it's one of those things, like, you know, especially because that's a big deal, like, because in just like in Across the Spider-Verse, his Spider-Man died, right? So him became a storyline in when they brought it in, and even now in like the Spider-Man game, right? Spider-Man is his mentor. So when you're bringing up like, what are they gonna do about Miles? I'm like, I don't know, because you know, you have Miles as Miles is gonna feel as old as Tom Holland, right? We're still looking at Tom like he's in high school, right? They can't just put a mustache on him and be like, he's an adult now. He's older Peter.
Yeah, I don't think they need to do that.
Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, yeah, if we're Across the Spider-Verse, yes. But I'm talking about, I don't see them having like one. I don't see Miles being in No Way Home. I think that's also like that's a lot. That'll be a lot. Now maybe like a spider, like a cameo, like his spider coming to bite him, but not like, hey, we got new Spider-Man. Not like they're not. I think that's a lot with as much as they're trying to set up. I think they'll at least give us a little bit like, hey, Miles is coming next. But with that being said, I don't see the other Peters. If they do have the other Peters come in, Tom, Toby, and Andrew, I can't see them staying, right? I can only see them like sending them back to their universes, and we're going like, all right, here's back to Tom Holland. Right? I feel like also going to be a bit messy. So with that being said, I find it hard to, I'm not sure how they're going to believably have it set where Tom Holland is a reasonable mentor to Miles Morales, because that's the point in the comic, is that Peter is a mentor to Miles because he's been doing this for like 12 years by that point. Tom Holland, huh?
Yeah, but
yes, but what I'm saying Peters. Is like, do you really think they're gonna keep all Peters, like though. Toby and Andrew in the MCU after this movie?
Well, I think everyone's going to end up going back to where they need to go to.
Sure, but I think I just think that like if you're going to have Miles in the same universe as the MCU, the main MCU universe, he needs like yeah, sure, they might be able to do that in the Sonyverse, right? Because they do have, I'm sure they have all rights to their old Peters, right? But in terms of like the MCU, like right there, they already established shit with Donald Glover, such like that. He needs a mentor, right? I can't see him and Peter both learning to be Spider-Man and how to handle being Spider-Man. The whole point of Peter's role is that I'm trying to keep you from going through those same pitfalls that I went through.
I think you're a little too.
Well, it's not just the comic book; it's all
what's happening in the comic book. Like what happens in the MCU.
Well, it's not just the comic book; it's also the video game. It's also the Spider-Man and Spider-Man Miles Morales video games.
Well, of course, but none of that needs to match. What about two teenage boys from very different backgrounds trying to figure out how to deal with being teenage boys and their power? I think that's a good story.
Not to keep it so long, is that Kevin Feige uses the other mediums as testing grounds for stories, because the big bucks are in the movies. The big bucks is where the movies are at, right? So why not test it out in comics, test it out in video games? All right, these storylines work. Now we just turn them into in the live action movie. They've never done that. They never, as far as I know, there's no storylines where Peter and Miles are both the same, like practically the same age, figuring this shit out, right? It's always Peter is a mentor to Miles because Miles is 15 years old. He's a kid, right? So and in our MCU, Tom Holland's Peter is what, maybe 18 at most, maybe, right? Like, so it's like, it's kind of like how much experience could this Peter give him? Because that's also a big thing. It's supposed to, because it also shows the dichotomy of really how strong and innately talented Miles is compared to Peter, right? Because he has a bunch of powers, right? Like one of the first things in the Miles Morales Spider-Man game is that you fight the Rhino and Peter gets his ass kicked. So then Miles comes around and takes him out with his electro powers, right? And it's just those kind of dichotomy where it's like, he's like, I've been in this game in a long time. I'm old. You are young, fresh blood who's gonna be able to take on who's gonna have to be ready to take on some big responsibilities. And I will be here for you if you need advice, right? So it's and I can't see Tom Holland giving.
I got you. I just think
sure they could tell a different story, but I feel like I just feel like you're I don't see that from Marvel. I don't see when Marvel, Disney, all of them have all these avenues to test stories and make sure they work before they do them, to then be like, but let's try something we haven't tried before. I see that's what we're doing with Sony. That's what Sony's doing. Is like, let's try to make this a romance movie. Yeah. We haven't done that before. And we're like, I'm like, is there any blueprint for that? Nah, we'll make it work. Right? That's now we get Venom, right? That's how we got Venom and Venom 2, right? That there's a reason why Thor: Love and Thunder is going to be about Gore the God Butcher, because they just finished the storyline about Gore the God Butcher. They tested it out and it did really well. People loved it, so they're like, that's what we're doing next. It's they've laid it out, they've said it. So, and if you pay attention, you can see it. So, I mean, I'm not saying you're wrong, and not saying that's impossible that they wouldn't do that. I just don't see them. I don't. It sounds very un-Disney. It sounds very un-Disney for them to do something they haven't already tested and figured out. Hey, this works.
I gotcha. Yeah. I'm not arguing. I'm just saying that I'm saying there's a possibility. But yeah. Anyways,
I mean, there's a possibility of anything.
We're that's definitely big theory stuff that probably won't happen.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what this show's about. But anyways, but speaking of which, we're gonna clamp it off from there. It was a long one, a little bit longer than we expected, but it's been a couple, maybe actually a few months, and we've had a lot to talk about. So I just want to say thank you guys for listening. My name is Lucid,
and I'm PopBot.
All right, we'll catch you guys next time. Peace.